And here's a question for both of you. When you are out talking to clients and prospects, what sort of concerns do you hear about in, first of all, the day-to-day, but also the medium to long term? What are people really worried about?
I think there's a number of concerns, right? And I think if we're talking about event-driven cyber breaches and things like that, obviously the pandemic is on everyone's mind right now. So most of the concerns that we hear about are things like insider threats, bad levers. Cost is obviously an issue because people also don't know what's going on in terms of strategy, how it's going to impact their businesses and things. So having access to data to help people drive those decisions and to spot bad actors or bad levers in their business is a key driver also for this initiative. Cybersecurity is always very high on the topic for everyone, which is a DDQ area that they're asked about all the time. And you can only really do prevention with data. If you don't know what's going on, you don't have the information, you're not going to be able to do anything. So the key is driving the adoption of data transparency throughout all of the technology, using behaviour analysis to look at how people are using the data, how they're working on their endpoints from a cyber risk perspective, but then extending that into electronic communication so that we can look at the language that people are using, the contact points they're having. Again, it's really to protect the business from cyber attacks, also to protect the fund from bad actors or people doing what they shouldn't be doing. And doing that in a way that is fit for purpose for the regulators.
There's some really interesting points there. So traditionally, financial services are obsessed with structured data, trade data, order data, positions, portfolios, even from an employee behaviour perspective, what time do they come in, how often do they print? But actually there's a whole universe of the unstructured data, the language that people use themselves, whether on a voice call, Teams chat, WhatsApp, email, Bloomberg, all of this behavioural analytics that could be applied to the language that the people are using and finding the meaning in that language is an untapped area, which is hugely valuable to the managers themselves in terms of everything from how they go about improving their investment decision-making process. All of the answers sit within the unstructured communications there. And then potentially, yes, from a bad levers perspective is identifying that sooner, or even from a performance management perspective, how are people conducting themselves? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? How do they interact with colleagues and customers? So the FCA now care massively about individual conduct, what words they use, how do they interact with colleagues, and all of that behaviour and conduct can be found within their e-communications and voice. The FCA now care hugely about the non-financial risk that employees present, and they're pushing that responsibility down into managers and employees themselves. It's no longer just the concern of the leadership of an organisation. So there's a huge amount of that traditional task that used to be the futile random sampling conducted by the compliance team in antiquated archive and search tools. There's so much more that can be embraced with technology now to find the meaning in language and how that's applied across the business. There's lots of scope.